Hey everyone, it's technology expert Burton Kelso with Integral here, sharing another tech tip to help you get the most out of the technology in your life. Today we're talking about how to speed up that Macintosh. Macintosh computers are pretty fast from the get-go, but if you've got an older Mac, or maybe you just bought the wrong type of Mac as far as not having the right system requirements, there are some things that you need to do in order to get it to work up to speed. In many instances, if your computer starts to run slow, doesn't necessarily mean that it's time to get rid of that computer. It means that it's time to take that Mac to the next level. So we're going to look at some tips and some things that you need to do in order to make sure that Mac is running fast. Let's switch screens like we always do, and we'll look at some helpful tips at one of these days. We need to switch to the desktop. There we go. Alright, so the first thing you need to do is to limit the amount of apps that you have open on your Macintosh. Now the problem with that is that it is so darn convenient to keep those items on your Macintosh desktop. So, well actually, we're going to get to that tip in a moment, but as far as the Mac and your applications, it's so darn tempting to keep them all open because you want to be able to quickly access that. But the challenge is with your Mac and with Windows computers too, if you have stuff open, it just draws on your system resources. So you've got to limit the amount of things that you have open on your Mac. And here's how you can find out. Let's take a look at our Mac. Alright, and let's go to the Windows screen. Okay, so we've got our Mac here, and as you can see, there's really nothing open. But if we click on Chrome, and if we click on iTunes, and if we click on Safari, we get our little bouncing icons up, and you can kind of see with the dots on our bar down at the bottom which of these applications are open. The other thing that you can do to find out what applications you have open is going to well, let's get out of Chrome and get to the activity monitor. The activity monitor is a good way of finding out what items are open on your Mac, so that way that you can shut those items down and enjoy your Mac. Getting out of the Chrome menu here, if it'll ever let us, we can go to Go, and then we can go to Utilities. Once we're in Utilities, the activity monitor will pop up. Once we're under the activity monitor, we can see which applications are running and taking up our system resources. So for example, we've got Safari, we've got Chrome, and we've got some other programs listed. So activity monitor lets us know all of those programs that are working, so you can identify them and shut them down. So if we've got Chrome and it's taking up too many resources, just shut it down. And the other thing too is that you don't want those applications to start up when you start up your computer. So if we find our mouse and go to the Apple menu off to the upper left hand corner, and then we want to go to System Preferences. Once you go to System Preferences and we close Activity Monitor, we want to go to Users and Groups. Once you go into Users and Groups, you can find your login items, and these are all the programs that start up with your Mac. Now if you've got a whole ton of those programs listed under the user groups, then that's a sure sign that you need to go through and shut those items down, because they are definitely slowing down your Macintosh computer. Our next tip as far as items are concerned is to clean up your desktop clutter. That's right, cluttering items will slow down that Macintosh computer. You got a lot of icons on your Mac like you've got here. It's time to get rid of that clutter and to shut all those items down. What your Macintosh desktop should look like is like this Mac here. Let's go ahead and close out some of these items, and you want to make sure that you do not have a lot of items on your desktop, because believe it or not, those items that you have on your desktop will definitely slow your Mac down and make it perform a lot slower. Next on our list, as far as making sure that your Mac is not running slow would be numbering the number of tabs that are running on your computer. So if you've got I almost said Microsoft on a Mac. If you've got Edge, or not Edge, if you've got Safari or you've got Chrome running on your Mac, it definitely can slow down your Mac as far as having a lot of tabs open. So when you open up, and we've got Safari opened up already, you just want to limit the amount of tabs that you have if you've got limited system resources. So if you've got a bunch of applications open, they can definitely slow down your computer, and you do not want to have too many tabs working in your web browser because they will slow you down. I would say probably a good 4 to 5 is good, but if you can just have one tab or one browser open at the same time, that would be good for you to run on your Mac. Our next tip, as far as making your Mac run slow, is you need to upgrade the RAM in your Mac. That's kind of a no-brainer, but many people don't understand what RAM is. RAM is your workspace on your computer, meaning that that's the amount of programs that you can have running open at the same time. So the more RAM you have on your computer, the more stuff that you can have running on the background, and it'll make your computer work better. How much RAM should you have? Well, that's a pretty simple question, and I've got an answer for you. So if you go to the Mac or the Apple menu and go to About This Mac, it'll let you know what your Mac currently has. I don't know if you've noticed or not, but this Mac somewhat has a delay, and it's because it only has 4 gigabytes of RAM. And there you go. So 4 gigabytes of RAM is pretty low for a Mac. What you want to aim for on your Macintosh is to go with either 8 gigabytes of RAM or 16 gigabytes of RAM in your computer. You can definitely upgrade the RAM in your computer. Not something that the average person would want to do. You would want to call a tech expert like myself to make that happen. But as far as upgrading RAM, it's a pretty simple procedure to do, and it will improve the performance of your computer. And keep in mind, too, that most modern Macintosh operating systems need at least 8 gigabytes of RAM. So if you're running El Capitan, Sierra, or High Sierra, or even Mojave, you definitely want to make sure that you've got at least 8 gigabytes of RAM or more. And our last tip as far as updating your Mac is to get a solid-state hard drive. Solid-state hard drives are better than your traditional hard drives because they will make your Mac run faster because there are no moving parts. Most hard drives run like a record player, as it's got a spinning metal plate or platter inside the hard drive which spins, and it takes your computer a while to find items, which slows it down. With a solid state hard drive, your computer can go directly to where it needs to go in order to find the information, which makes your Mac run a lot quicker. So if you've got an older Mac, or you've got a Mac that it's just not running fast enough, you might want to upgrade to a solid state hard drive. I will say this: if you've got a newer Mac, then you probably do have a solid state hard drive, and you probably just need to up the RAM. To find out what type of hard drive that you have, I normally will let you know if you have a solid state hard drive by going to the Mac menu, About This Mac, and then System Preferences. But hopefully these tips will help you out as far as making your Mac run faster, and you need to utilize them because you want to get more life out of your iMac, Mac Mini, or your MacBook. So if you've got comments or questions, leave them in the comment section below. Would love to hear from you to find out what tech tips you'd like to see in future videos. And speaking of videos, be sure to subscribe to Integral on Facebook and on YouTube and all the other social media channels, because we definitely have tips to help you get more out of the technology in your life. So take care of yourself and do many things to make you smile, and thanks for watching.